Welcome to the Kickstart podcast, where we highlight the stories of how professionals kickstarted and navigated their successful careers. My name is Preston, and on this episode, we have the pleasure of hosting someone who truly has an impressive career. From working his way up to be a CMO at a fast-growing company to founding and starting a variety of different types of successful businesses, he is now the COO of Everlight Solar that provides homeowners with simple and affordable clean energy. Tony, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I guess a great way to start is by asking you, for those that don't know who you are, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself?
My favorite thing is talking about myself. So that's the easy one. No, actually, it's funny because I think that people that have known me in different parts of my career have seen me as a media guy, media company owner, as a performer. When I got into media, it was from making music and being a music producer. And my master's degree is in fine arts. And then I got into studying leadership and business and decided I wanted to make money first from just trying to control my art. But then I have people that just know me as a nerd from college when I was studying theology. And so I just have these, I really was inspired by stories of ancient people that lived very different from us and had different output on life. And reading about some ancient people and how the different things they did in their lives helped me kind of calm down and not worry so much about that I'm only going to succeed if I run in one direction constantly. If I know afraid to take chances and to try a year, like starting my own recording studio, my first business, or doing a video editing company. Those things have given me a lot of experiences and allowed me to be better than a lot of other people at stuff that I haven't done before because I learned how to learn. And so really, it's not that I think I'm good at everything because I'm terrible at lots of things. That's how I learned that. But I grew a belief through my career as like being a filmmaker, as being successful at these enough to where I learned stuff about myself and learned I could contribute more. And for instance, I really got into leadership because I became fascinated at how some cool marketing stuff we would do might help companies in small ways, but how they just really needed to sort out a couple things if they really wanted to get moving. And so as I saw people be limited and companies be limited by their emotional bandwidth of the leaders, their ability to talk, I ended up going back to do another master's degree and studied in leadership for a long time. And that has been an obsession of my life, is to ask what leadership is and to be willing to kind of go in as a consultant and as a business owner or operator. And I've had the pleasure of doing a lot. I spent years as an academic teaching, which is weird to say. I did it as a part-time role, and it kind of helped me kind of meld these two worlds together. Anybody in kickstarting in a business, we're famous for talking down about education a lot of times. We'll be like, whatever, name a billionaire successful person who finished college. And it shows you that there's a value to it, but that there's a value to this other stuff too. And that fascinated me because I think that also in academics, we kind of can look deeper into things and we can question guys like Jack Welch who are like, here's the three reasons I was successful. These three reasons. I was successful because of this. And you're like, well, were you? Maybe it's for forces you didn't understand. And so I've been very lucky that I've been able to do a lot of the cool stuff I've done. And I really was, I just dedicated myself to being a learner no matter what, and also being willing to speak up. So I don't have a career trajectory where it's like I've always been in solar, for instance, even in leadership. Leadership is a bit bigger than that. And the reason why I think I contribute to Everlight in such a crazy way is because of my, I guess, belief in the value of teamwork and belief in honesty, and how when we grow the team and we grow everybody together, we end up being able to do stuff nobody else can do. And the number one factor in that isn't knowing stuff, but being willing to learn, which means you start with the I don't know. So
I think a hunger for and having a huge desire for constantly learning is very, very important when it comes to leadership or management, or where you have any direct reports, where if you can do that, it just shows that you're just not willing to be complacent as a leader, not willing to settle to be a static individual, and you're constantly evolving and growing. Things that you need to do to be a better leader and also to be a better operator, not just in like a micro team setting, but also in a giant company setting as well, which I think is really cool. Now we're going to get to Everlight and deep dive that just in a bit. But what I'm also really curious, and what our audience is curious, is the journey that you're able to kind of go through to get to where you are now. And what I find really fascinating about your background is that you truly have interest in a lot of different things, from academia, right, to media marketing, but even beyond that, which obviously you can't really gander from either your resume or LinkedIn, music background, arts background, creative. So it seems like you were able to leverage all that in kickstarting a very successful career way back when in media marketing. So what about media and marketing as a career track really drew you to it? And what were some of the favorite things about that kind of profession that really resonated with you?
Yeah, well, I'm a builder. No, I'm a builder. I like building. I like creating things, and the power of story, actually, that the care and attention to the creative process is huge for media and marketing. And at first, I remember being in high school in advanced placement art and having colleges come in to try to sell us on doing design courses with them. And I thought, I would never want to do that. I would never want to work for other people in businesses. Like, I was so like a teenager thinking about art, like, I don't know, standing in the wind and painting my feelings. And I felt like that until I did my first project. I was in college and I started making money doing film projects, even at college, for my college and for other participants. And I did this one event video, sell this event, and working with the event director and making something that I thought was actually really good, and threading how hard it was really hard to be creative and also achieve the goals. And I found out that just seeing people fail at that and being to make it happen, it really fed me in a way I wasn't expecting it to. And it was nothing that I thought when I was that teenager. I remember making it and going, wow, this is hard to do. And it takes a lot of creativity. It takes a lot of craft. It takes a lot of art to be able to put out good marketing. And it totally, that captured me. And that ability to, I think, when we both need to build ourselves so that we can add value, but also there is a recursive effect where seeing where we do add value and the value we take joy in, how that helps us. Because at that time, I was still not planning on doing that for my career. I was open about it. And the more I did it, the more I made money, but made money for solving really hard problems. And that really is what that impetus of creating, in the, not the I know best, but the wild thing that happens when, like, real stuff, like if you're doing a feature film, there's hundreds of people involved, and there is responsibility and ownership, which is different than contribution. And realizing that difference and being able to keep growing in myself, the ability to have that responsibility level while allowing contribution from wide sources, and that willingness to somehow in there, I never thought I was really brave until I had friends be like, I can't believe you did that. I always thought, we always think of ourselves maybe as being a bit terrified because we feel our feelings, but being willing to try stuff, you say, hey, I could do that for you. And then trying it really meant the difference between everything. I still have friends that were saying the same things as me when I was young, but they didn't want to do anything because they know what they would do then as yourself starting out isn't going to be some huge blockbuster movie. It's going to be just a little thing. And I guess I had a epiphany moment where I realized that I stopped trying to find the perfect match for myself, for my career. I think that what happens when you want to find the perfect match and you solidify a dream in the distance, even for your own business, if you solidify that dream that's far off, is you cut out opportunities in your way now to get there, even though knowing you're not there and there's a long distance and you can't see everything between here and there. And you think you see this clearly, but you're seeing something from a distance. And not that everything's like a mirage or anything, but it is different than you think it is. And I realized that there's a number of things that would make me happy that I would love to doing, stuff where I feel like I would love to add value. And rather than heading to one point on a map, I realized that there's several of these things all in a similar direction. I'm not going to be, I never was interested in being a cop or like except for like just, a daydream about being some detective, but like never really interested in real law enforcement or being in medical profession. That none of that stood out to me. But there was a direction that did stand out to me. And I realized that, if I'm doing any number of those things, let's say there's 12 things you want to think about or 12 businesses you could start, doing any of those is better than being in a job that has nothing to do with myself. And so I just chose one. And there's a lot of business I could have started, but but out of that group, there was opportunities on the table. And I was lucky. Those are opportunities on the table for stuff I would like to do. So rather than worrying about that specific spot way far back on the map, I think I got here because I said, well, yeah, I would love to do this. Teaching and helping others, you only get better. If you're a wise person, you get better. And if you can get over yourself, you can get better. If you can stay a learner. And so I try to do that. And I just ask the question, how do you run a recording studio? At the small time, how do you start? That's the same question I ask if I meet with a CEO today to consult. And I'm looking if they're asking that question, because the CEO who's saying, how do we do this? Is going to find out. And then the marketing efforts that fail are the people that they know how it's done to a T. Sure. but when you ask that, it changes your perspective. And but without getting off track, I saw the first thing, and it was creative, it was fun, it was for clients. It wasn't like, again, just making art for myself. It was making art for others, but that turned out to be quite the challenge. And I realized it's the challenge that I liked, in the figuring out part of it, and the amount of learning you have to ingest about companies. And because I think great marketing is not advertising, it's understanding the value a product brings, the pain points, all the stuff that real marketing gets into, and that good founders carry inside them. And a lot of me was helping get that out of them and making it external. And saying, because they're carrying, the good founders are already, they're solving that problem, but they need to scale now. And as I started, that media business veered off into consulting and into more business stuff. The first time I had a client ask for this video, a bunch of cool video projects for selling their product, and I just said, you know what, these would be really cool. I don't think they'd help your business at all. They're like a person-to-person sales. Anything we design should be to help that salesman walk through the process. This was a big industrial, like a plant that does big air stuff. Like you go into a factory, there's some huge air system. They're not selling ads on television. Their process is different. And opening my big fat mouth about I don't think this is going to be very helpful to you. And seeing that be a value, that level of honesty, really began a whole other career in helping businesses. And helping my own, because all my businesses have been successful, but a lot of them have been unsuccessful to the degree that I was unwilling to sharpen my focus. And it's because I started out long ago wanting lots of things, and then being able to choose among them. But the more options I left open, the worse my businesses did. Now they did great in comparison to a regular job. Like I loved, like when I left work, the first time I left work, I was able to double my income. And then when I moved into an executive role, my first VP role as a VP marketing and communications, that helped my income. And then back on my own again, raising it and getting to a chief marketing officer. Those are great steps. And part of it was because I think I had a confidence in this learning process of learning, and of constantly working on myself to remove any hurdle between me and learning, and just seeing myself honestly, and seeing all the reasons why I would fail. For instance, I was really creative when I was young, and I didn't like processes. They choke you out, man. But when you learn that art is a process, when I became more crafty, more like an elf and less like a magician, it made me more successful. But again, I'm also lucky. I don't want to pretend like I'm not lucky. I wish I controlled the universe as much as I want to.
Luck will always play a small part, at least in anyone's career, right? But I think a couple big takeaways, like number one, it sounded like you just kind of stumbled in marketing. It just kind of made sense to you. It was a good professional career at that time that you were able to leverage your creativity, your curiosity for learning, problem solving, and it just kind of made the most sense. And then my second takeaway, and what I found really insightful, is that everyone could have a goal in life, right? But there's no one way to get there. And what I find fascinating with your experience is you really like to follow your passion and desires and interests. I think it's very actually difficult to follow through and execute on that. It's very easy to kind of evolve in your career in a very linear way. But then there's a lot of different other ways, like infinite possibilities that you can also navigate your career and still end up at the same place. And a lot of people end up finding the jobs because it might be stable, it might pay well, but they're not happy. And I think what's interesting with you is you kind of did the flip where you intentionally made decisions based on the problem that you're solving, how excited you are, the passion that you have. And then that just kind of led you on a real creative and dynamic career that took you to where you are now, which I find really fascinating. So one more thing about marketing though, specifically. So like when you worked in marketing professionally, Tony, like what specific channels or what part of marketing were you really focused on? Like I know in especially in tech or professionals today, a lot of people are focused mainly on, for example, digital acquisitions. Others do more content and branding, SEO, SEM, combination of all the above. Like what was kind of like your forte in case people are curious?
No, well, it started off a lot more just on the content end where it'd be like the ads themselves, video ads, writing ads, filming ads, designing the website building, and getting into more into digital marketing and into metrics and basically, and it stemmed from the desire to make something cool and to try to sell people on how that actually would change their business. And so some people, they just like the ads and they'll do it, but you have some ads are wildly successful ads, but you don't remember their names, and which means they're actually a complete failure. Like some of my favorite commercials of all time are really failures. And some of the internet ads that started coming out. And there's that one where they did a series of ads that are supposed to be over the top. Like I think the line is like, we wanted you to remember our name. So we've tattooed the foreheads of a kindergarten class, and it's all these babies and they're crying, and it's like looks like they like are tattooing them, and you're like, you're just crying laughing. This is so absurd. Or they're like killing squirrels against a wall or something crazy, and has their name on it. And I have no idea what that name is, but I remember those commercials, which to me gets interesting. And so you ask metrics, how do you tell that? How do you sell that? How do you do it? And so I was very much on the content side, and I think the thing that helped me bridge the gap was a summer I spent knocking doors. I had a brother who knocked doors for Clark Pest Control in California, and he was telling me about it. He said he made more money that year than his whole year, doing something. Oh, I mean, he made a ton of money, and it was more money than I made. And I was like, what? How are you making more money than me when I'm teaching college classes here? And I was like, this has to be BS. But also I had the summer off because that time I was just teaching full time. And I was like, okay. And I was like, again, part of it is like the luck of the opportunity, but I also needed to create myself into somebody who would be given that opportunity. So opportunities are both given and also created in this dynamic. So it's not, and we should be proud of ourselves for stuff we do. And having an opportunity, I was really young. I just finished 2 different BAs and started a company, and that got noticed academically, and it got me into teaching video and some of the technical stuff in school. And so with that, I had that summer off, and my brother's talking to me about it, and I said this weird thing happened. I'll think about it every day because I'm terrified of knocking doors and being in front of people. And I said, wow, I could never imagine myself doing that. But I wonder I asked the question, what kind of person would I be if I did that? And that when you talk about my careers and doing different stuff, the confidence that gave me was, again, looking at ancient people and different people that had just different lives than us, and trying to keep a historical perspective of reality and of our past, and doing that. Not saying that their way is better than our way and pretending we're doing badly now, but just to have a bit bigger view than myself. But I also heard a talk. It was a talk one day. They were encouraging people to do a year of like service, of like volunteer, go do the Peace Course for a year or after college. And this person was talking about this. It was an excellent speaker. And he said, you want to be a doctor? Cool. I'm not telling you to not be a doctor. I'm telling you to spend a year, join the Peace Corps, or I can't remember, some other organization, live with the homeless in Chicago and work with them for a year and be a different type of doctor when you come back from that. I heard that, and it got me more involved in charity work and helped me ask that question of how I liked speakers. I liked hearing from people. And you don't become a speaker by learning to talk well. Because actually, some of the best speakers I've heard, it's just what they have to say because of the stuff they've done. I heard this talk by this guy who went and lived in like South America and nothing and for years, and it's super interesting. And I realized the value they brought is because of what they experienced. And that's when something clicked in my mind that says, if you want to be valuable, that linear path will make you valuable maybe on that one path. You can have a wider value if you're willing to think, man, okay, maybe I'm going to be a businessman. Maybe I'll be a different type of businessman. I'm going to be a businessman who spent, like, I went and did this thing where I was like homeless on the streets of Calgary for a bit in Canada, and was like, that was wild, life-changing. That I wanted to be a different sort of person and see what that would give me. So when I had that call my brother, I asked that same question and said, man, I bet I'd be a different kind of artist or a different kind of marketing person if I learned to knock doors, which to me, we hate door knockers. And I threw myself into that, and it got me into a community of people that are dedicated to self-growth. Like I realized at that point I was a talent. Talent is somebody who has huge limits. I was good at baseball. So I thought I'm good at baseball, and I played baseball until I started to feel not so good at it. Because it was so easy for me to be good at it, where did I stop when it got really hard? And the people that do the best at those things, it's always hard for them. They work hard continuously. I didn't hear a lot of no's. So having hundreds of people say no to my face every day helped me realize I have nothing to be afraid of. Mm-hmm. That one thing, it changed my mind about business. It changed my mind about strategy. I teach a course. There's a lecture I do, and I've done it both of my own business classes, but also when I speak elsewhere. I think last time I did it was at Utah State University when they have this, advanced strategy class you take in their business program there. And so it was one of their final classes before they graduated with their degrees. And I did this class on strategy, and it brings up this topic of door knocking, and not only because of those experiences that a lot of people get out of college, and you really want to go straight onto it. And sometimes that's awesome. And if you have the path, you can do that. But when you think about being a different kind of person, you gain all these values that you did that if you want to learn from them, because experience doesn't create learning, I wish it did. If you want to learn from them, you can make a wide impact. And the businesses you start to be different. Was I better at marketing after I had people say no to me constantly, and I worked with other salespeople to have a system and to learn how to sell door to door? It changed my life emotionally, but also understanding that it's what you bring to the door. And this is the thing that I tell strategy students, because I love strategy so much. I think I'm smart. A lot of us think are smart if we get into this kind of stuff in marketing. So if we think we're smart, that doesn't mean I am, but I feel like it. And so you like strategy, you like that maneuverability. And I can't tell you how mostly when I'm with companies, the strategy is so obvious, but the cojones to do it, the walking through all the hard parts, the sacrifices to start a business, it's wild. It's almost all sacrifice for so long. My family's been poor most of my career so that I could run these businesses. And those were also decisions to live a certain kind of family life that I wanted, but it was all intentional and conscious. I decided to knock doors. I had to go somewhere else. I actually went back home to where I'm from, in San Jose area of California, and knocked doors there. And doing that made me a totally different type of person. I came out of there and I was like, sweet. I went back and I started another business and got a job I wanted. I went first and got a job I wanted first, just to see if I could leverage this that way. And I just went into the business and said, hey, you should hire me for this, this, and this. And use that new unafraidness I'd gotten on the doors, and that comfortableness with no, and people can read how comfortable you are, and the confidence from tackling something that is so not me, and leverage that into a role, and then took that same confidence back out on the road. When you can just make nothing but commission and knock on a door, you're generating your income yourself with your bare hands. And if you work for a good business, you're helping people too. So that was Clark Pest Control. So they were using this new type of stuff that it's not poison, it's this dehydrator. It's kind of like hypersodium, so it's safe for a baby because it's not poison. It just, for bugs, it dehydrates them because they don't have the water levels a human has. And so using this safer system that's trying to be humane, something I could get behind. If you cross that line, my advice is to leave it. Cross the line of where you can't believe in what you're doing. So that willingness to say, I'm going to be a different kind of marketer. That got me into situations where I went beyond content. I got into like, I think I view sales in my marketing model. I would put sales as part of it, as part of marketing, and the overall picture of marketing not being, so usually when we use it in lots of ways. Sometimes we use it for content or for just online marketing needs metrics instead of the whole overall picture of value creation. And sometimes we do that because the owner wants to own part of it instead of recognize how important as a founder, I am the prime marketer, the prime salesperson. I'm the prime pain finder and value creator, and how we communicate value, and it became more and more obvious how like marketing kept encroaching into other parts of the business. And as I started to study business more and teach, that just those curiosities and the successes and failures of others, just for whatever reason, really made me interesting. You can't get gritty about something that isn't interesting to you. Like I can hear about biology in the body and it's kind of interesting. It's kind of cool, but not like I do about business, where I read a book and think, no, this guy doesn't even understand why he was successful. Or you think you're hearing pure BS. The real things, the real moves that shape the economy and why these businesses can get big, just I'm constantly learning about them, constantly asking the question. And I was spurred on by people that handed me good books and were good mentors to me. And one of those books for me that kept me moving was a book called Rookie Smarts. Preston, have you read that book? I'm probably going to butcher it, but the basic idea is it's a study on how rookies do at the VP level. How do rookies do, like rookie entrepreneurs or longtime entrepreneurs? And so it was focused more on the executive level. So when you get to the executive level, you're a shaper. You're responsible for the business's success. And Rookie Smarts was a studies to say who does better, basically. Rookies, first-time VPs, or a guy who's been a VP for 30 years, or a C-level executive for 30 years. And by a landslide, it's so much more the rookies that do better, which is it's surprising unless you get into some Anders Ericsson work on performance. He's the guy who created the 10,000 hour rule comes from. So a lot of us know that. And Anders Ericsson, really puts the point on the difference between experience and real learning, and how experience, sometimes it just makes you worse. You get into habits as a doctor, but the rookie doctor is asking a bunch of questions and is open to stuff. And because he's not just walking a track, he trusts completely. He's rebuilding the track constantly. He's finding all sorts of stuff the other doctor's missing. So in the medical profession, it's true. And in business, it's true. That spurred me on. That validated what I had learned on the doors, which is just that attitude of being a learner and being willing to just do what other people are doing to succeed. If you're starting a business, you should ask, why are these businesses successful? What makes them successful? And if you keep asking those questions, you win, because if business building is anything, it's learning. If you start as an entrepreneur and sorry, I'm getting preachy. Am I getting preachy, Preston?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Because I know I was realizing that if you're starting a business, and I know because I did this. I mean, for sure, my early businesses was trying to prove that I could improve something about myself. But when you're proving is the opposite of learning. Proving is that there's a degree in which proving yourself is that you get into learner mode for it. I mean, more of the mindset of like, am I good? I think I'm good. I want to see that I'm good, that I could run a business. I think I could be an entrepreneur. I think I could start this business, instead of having the resolution to, I'm going to figure out how to do this. And sometimes we do get into situations where that's not where we wanted to be after all. And I think that letting ourselves off the hook is important too. I've loved everything I've been able to do. I love marketing. I could do that tomorrow. And I got into operations because, in a way, everything becomes another version of creating value. And as a COO, I'm concerned with how our company scales. And that creates more value for our customers. Who our people are and how they're developed, because that makes a huge difference for our customers. And in a way, when you get it, a lot of marketers, when you get down the what is marketing and value creation stream, it becomes the whole of a business. So it gets a little too big to have that title. But it gets big for a reason, and that's understanding that value is created at each of these levels. Where if you are just trying to make something cool and you're not thinking about how the value it impacts, you have tons of features that is too much for people. But, I think books like there's so many great books about marketing and smart stuff on how to run
Mhm.
your business, a lot of everybody's read and they don't follow.
Mhm.
And I think keeping a level of ownership with yourself about trying to practice what you preach, or not even that, that's not it. It's growing the emotional bandwidth to be able to keep asking that question. What does this look like? What should this be? How do I run a successful business? Something I ask myself this year. Next year I'm gonna ask myself, how do we do this? And if a learning organization is big. I don't know if you ever
Mhm.
listen to Neaton Ganach or Don Mellon. They're both two, some of them have done some podcasts together, but they're ex-Apple guys who, Don, he created Safari, WebKit. He came into Apple from, I think, NetSuite or some of that old school browser stuff. And Neaton Ganach, he's one of the guys who ran iOS software and developed it. So those two of the guys that were a big part of the iPhone creation, iPhone software creation. And they work like crazy. When people tell them and talk to them about, hey, Apple's doing, we weren't fascinated by the big companies. Could Apple get into this? Apple can't do iCloud because Apple's not good at web. Apple's not good at this. And they scoff because one of their big points is that Apple they weren't a small audio device company when they launched the iPod. Their goal, like they were a computer company who learned how to become an iPod company, who then learned how to become an iPhone company. And he says like that what Apple's good at is learning how to be a different kind of company. Will they do a car? If they keep their learning DNA and they keep being the company that learns how to be the next kind of company, they will do well. And I think if we have the same attitude in our companies, how do I learn how to do that? We'll keep moving. For me, it meant what I could do this. I'm gonna have a 100% resolution to learn how to do this.
Mhm. And it sounds
And
like it,
that,
Tony. It definitely sounds like it. And so,
yeah,
like, the biggest takeaway for me is that like life is just full of different experiences or chapters, right? And you take from the previous chapter and you become wiser, stronger, more multifaceted, and help you find success in the next chapters in your life. And I think that's what
mm,
you've done just really, really well. What the story about the door knocking, I think, is really fascinating because the reason why people don't excel in their career, let alone start a business, is they just have a fear of just even getting started, right? So being comfortable with rejection, taking initiative, taking control, and just always having like a really strong just desire to continuously learn and know that you can always get better, you can always be smarter, you can always be faster. It seems to be like a really strong theme that I'm kind of understanding about your life and career, which is really fascinating. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Let's switch a little gears and talk a little
mm-hmm.
about your current company, Everlight Solar. So real quick, just in a simple way, like how did you find out about this opportunity at Everlight Solar? What does the company do? And just how are you guys different?
Having known knowing that both founders and be doing early consulting with them is how I got connected. And I door knocked with them. And so we have long-term relationships. Those relationships matter when you are founding something and need help from people that have found other things. And just so without talking, I could talk forever about my relationship with these guys, but without getting into those details, the parts that really matter is just, I think, knowing people and having done well with them. So some of the people I knocked doors with, I had a trust in their level of steel. I had a trust in them and their ability to chase things and make things happen because we knocked doors together.
Cool. So you guys met a while ago, and then did they just tell you that they're on the market looking for a COO? How did that
No, they're
conversation come out?
no, they're asking, they're looking for help in other ways, and I mean they just need help in general. And I actually came in because I came in 6 months after founding. They had already had maybe 20 employees or something like that, 20 to 20 with part timers, maybe up to, yeah, around there, and they were already doing millions in revenue, and we're needing to grow the people. And because of just startups and startup culture, there's a lot of sweat equity from a lot of people in there. So coming in as COO from the bat, I didn't think was a wise idea. And even though I was coming from being a chief marketing officer, I wanted to come in and prove myself in front of everybody because there's, I guess, being a longtime consultant, you practice trying to grow respect and grow and help people understand your value. And in this weird situation where, oh, you're the guy they're calling in how to help us, there's can be immediate animosity. they think that you know better than them. But by working with lots of clients, I've learned how to win by being the dumb guy who's just good at learning and who's has a big mouth. So I'll come and say, I work with all sorts of companies, concrete companies. I don't know anything about this, but is this going on? Tell me. And then they're like, oh yeah, totally. And now I'm helping value without having to pretend to be a know-it-all. And so I wanted to use a similar process coming into Everlight. So I came in as director of leadership and development and helping both them grow their people. That was my first focus is we need more people because we're just too successful. And they just wanted to scale. And that's what the Humble Strong, I was co-founder of Humble Strong. It's still going. It's a leadership development company. And also it helps on leadership development and scaling companies. And scaling I mean, both leadership and scaling are two of my obsessions. And so that's exactly what I was working on, is meeting with companies and helping them scale, helping them move from a successful master of something who gets a little crew around them to a bigger business. And what's that gap look like?
Gotcha. And which markets do you guys operate in, and where is like the headquarters based out of?
Yeah, so I think at the time our headquarters is in Salt Lake. It tends to be a bit more in the Midwest now. Probably Wisconsin would be our biggest focus, but we do Midwestern states. We sell in about 6-7 states. We don't throw around our numbers to tout them, mostly because we're worried about the numbers of sales that come in and stuff I really can't share. but we get to focus on that Midwest. And although we probably could be in a lot more places, because our strategy is in full stack service and being the best and being the most reliable, having a white glove treatment with people, our customers. People come to work at Everlight because they want to work at a company that is trying to be the best and wants to be the best. We think we're the best, which is saying a lot. We also think we got a lot of room to grow. So but we compete against ourselves. We don't spend almost zero time looking at other solar companies because we think they move much slower than us. So the results speak for themselves. Where they move slower, they hire slower. We don't like their work is pretty shoddy. And so when it comes to hiring and growing people, we're looking for people that have that edge, that we're not here to just run a successful business. We want to make the business in solar. And we think there's a lot. It's a new market. There's a lot of big players, but it's new. And even seeing other people fail at it, because knowing that they're failing they're going left exactly where we're going right, like Tesla and their solar stuff, where it's not that they're doing badly. We're making different decisions than them, and we're their partners in several of our markets. In Minnesota, we're an exclusive partner, and getting to work with them really helps put a pin on why we're so different, and I think why we're a valuable partner, and why they're looking more for having installers and different kinds of solar companies. And for us, we really win, I think, because we're just willing to do hard stuff other people aren't willing to do. We're willing to figure out how to install throughout the year and how to sell throughout the year, where other companies are afraid of some of those things. Instead of worrying about, hey, there's not a market for this kind of, how do you find these type of electricians? How do you find these type of sales guys? We grow them ourselves. And that gives us a huge protection about stuff. We're not importing bad practices from other companies. We're not worried about intellectual property. We're concerned with ourselves and just learning. And with that attitude, it helps us to install in half the time of the typical install. And because we control the sales, we control our project management, we control the install. And that makes us wildly different than pretty much everybody else in any state we're in. And it gives us a tremendous advantage. And it's not because of some magical scheme people don't know about. It's being willing to do all that.
So Tony, quick question. So for the audience, can you just clearly just share, like, what do you guys do? Are you just an installer? Yeah. Do people approach you if they want to install panels on their house? I hear that, you guys say that you're the best, and it sounds like, is that mainly becomes, or I guess, does that come mainly from your service, the white glove treatment? Do you guys use technology? Do you have your own technology? Like what do you guys do? And like, how are you guys, and how are you guys different?
Yeah. So we do our own sales. We do our own marketing. We don't buy leads. We do our own design. We do our own project management. We do our own installations.
Gotcha.
We do not.
And it's mainly residential. Is that correct?
Yeah, residential only now. We do occasional enterprise, but that's not a market that we want to play in right now.
And are you
Um,
guys like white labeling the panels? Are you creating the panels yourself? Like, are you just
um,
importing them
no,
from
no.
another country?
Yeah, right now we do not. We use American panels. Our big with our supply chain and our work in our supply chain, it allowed us to keep installing all the way through COVID because we weren't relying on overseas connections, which really helped us,
Mhm. And
put us in a
and
bit of an advantage. And that's some of that stuff's more expensive, but when you're putting panels on customers' roofs, you want to know it works reliably. So the money we save in not having to do, so a lot of people ask me what we do for replacement stuff and when people, issues, but we have a lot less issues than other companies, dramatically less, because of just we pay more for the different hardware we use.
Hmm.
And some of that stuff is some of our secret sauce. But the thing that is clear to customers is that you might have one company sell to you a totally different company design. You get passed to a third company for project management, and then this other company you've never heard of, this mom and pop shop, shows up to install, and they've only installed like 3 systems in their history because they only install like some. It's typical in a lot of markets for companies to install maybe 3 or 4 houses a year, or to be part of massive enterprise things where even the enterprise companies run slow in residential because it's different, and they
Gotcha.
you know so
Um,
in some, I should say, I want to put a pin in the states we focus on. That's where we offer those services, and that's in Nebraska, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Those are our primary areas of focus. In Utah, Washington, we do sales, design, and project management. We leave the install to somebody else in those states. So as we expand, there are certain states that are our primary focus where we do the full stack, but there are some states we still sell in. That isn't our focus, and I guess our focus is to grow and to do that full stack everywhere we go.
hmm.
But um, but but we have markets where we do everything but the install, and even then, the white glove treatment so if you're getting a system, you are often responsible for getting the permits for your system because you have to do these applications with the utility company, state, your taxes. There's helping that is very costly because it's very human resource intensive. And so us doing that for customers is kind of a big deal and can mean the difference between making it worthwhile doing, because there's all this stuff that you don't have time for. It's a complicated thing. It's a solar system. Solar energy systems, they need permits, they need CAD, they need write-off on utility companies, negotiations
Gotcha.
with them.
Okay. So you're consolidating everything, you're vertically integrating and just really
Mm-hmm.
focusing on just the end user's experience. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so how many kind of installs are you guys doing on a yearly basis? I'm curious.
I don't know if we're, I don't
Mhm.
have to go ahead and share that.
Fair
A lot
enough.
more. So I know that in a month we install more than than almost all other companies do in a year in the
Cool.
states we're in.
And if
So it's
someone
that
was
kind of
interested,
difference.
gotcha. No, that's pretty cool. That's a great job answering that question, Tony. But if someone was interested, and maybe the listeners now, they want to save some money, they want to install some solar panels. Like, what does the process look like with you guys? Like, do they just go to your website and then they fill out a contact us form? Like, what does the flow look like?
Yeah, we do free consultations, which is a big deal because some consultations in solar would be somebody coming and talk to you, and then they arrange for a design to be created, or it's a design that isn't really a real true design that shows you how much energy it actually be creating. Because software to do that's really expensive, and so a lot of companies don't do that until you're locked in and have paid a deposit. There's no deposit with us. In fact, if anything, I think anytime you're successful, you have scammers, and there's some people, I think, in the state of Illinois, which we do not sell in. So if you're in Illinois, that's not us. People try to use our name to try to get deposits from people, and we don't do deposits. It's completely free. But so if you're interested, we set up a time for us. We check first. Once we get your address, we can tell you a bunch of stuff about your house. For instance, you might be in an area where we would say, actually, where you live, we don't recommend solar because your utility company is this company, and they don't have their net metering program doesn't pay you enough for this to be worthwhile financially for you. If you're still interested in it, it's just going to cost you a lot more. But where our niche is we help customers using mostly solar loans. People can buy it however they want to, but with a solar loan, we can allow most of our customers can replace what they spend on their utilities with a solar system. So you're really moving your money from renting your power to being like an owner, or at least somebody mortgaging. In the same way, if you rent your house, that money goes nowhere. You don't get the house someday. But if you mortgage your house, one day it will be yours, and that's money in your pocket over the long term. And so that's the real value for customers with us.
Mm.
And so if we can't do that value, we don't do it, because then we make money. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you the percentage, but it's like, I don't know if it's like a quarter or more of our stuff come from referrals. There's some metric there that I'm definitely not allowed to share. And how do you get referrals? You only get it by making people happy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that's that's a great strategy for winning. We don't get ahead by not.
No, that's great. It sounds like you guys are really about just authenticity, transparency, just being genuine and making sure like from the first touch point with you guys, it's as like enjoyable and smooth and positive as much as possible, all the way up to the successful installation, which is really cool. Now, suppose that people are listening and they're like, you know what, like solar sounds really cool. Like maybe my friend or my uncle just got new solar panels. I've always been fascinated. I
Mm-hmm,
see them in
mm-hmm.
I see them in the neighborhood, but they're kind of like, what is the kind of life like at working at these? So, what would you say is like the X factor internally as part of your culture and your team? Like, is there something that you guys do that's different? You guys do like quarterly offsite events, or I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, maybe it's the training, maybe it's the benefits. Like, what about you guys
Uh,
makes you really unique that like would hopefully inspire someone to maybe even apply to one of your positions in the future?
yeah. Being at somebody who's now an owner and COO, I'm really biased about this. So I'm trying to think of not only what I think it is, but the stuff that you would find if you go to Glassdoor. So if you go to a Glassdoor, one of these sites where we have no control, and you just read what people write about us, you're going to see like something like a 4.6 or higher out of 5 with tons of reviews, which I think is pretty rare, especially in our market. And one of the things that people are good about saying is how we're not for everybody. So we own that we're different. We're hungry people, and if there's anything that's an X factor, it's that we have values and we live by them. And even saying that, you're like, there's a measure where you don't believe anybody saying that, because there's company values, and a lot of them are aspirational only, and it's awkward in the way that there's a divide between the people that are hardcore in the company and maybe leadership or ownership that aren't as hardcore. But when I think people get to be in an environment where they feel like they're part of a kick-ass team. And I feel like everybody needs to feel, if you don't feel like the team you're on is really kick-ass, and you don't feel like you're making a critical contribution to that team, you're not going to be in a level of just enjoyment of your work that is like unheard of. So if you
Mm-hmm.
can feel like you're making a contribution to a team that's awesome, that's really the X factor. And you do that by really living your values, and our values are on our website, and we don't mind if customers see them too. Because we are absolutely, number one, we're relentless. Number two, we're always learning. Number three, we're all in. You don't hold back. We're all in. That's why we do the hard stuff other companies don't do for people, because we're going to do solar. We're going to do it right. We
Mm-hmm.
would think right. The company we would dream of coming along. Also, we're always learning. We're all in. We're relentless, and we absolutely are able to disagree and commit with each other. We absolutely are adventurous. Adventurous is one of our values because we're a startup. We're growing fast. We don't like sharing how fast we're growing, the wider world, but we are growing very fast. When I came in order to get the COO job, as we were talking about, I had specific numbers I needed to hit, and I wanted that because I wanted to build a company and scale it instead of just consulting from the outside. That experience is going to change my life and change the lives of customers and team members. And so we've scaled up. We're over 200 people now. We're the biggest solar company in Wisconsin. We're the biggest in Minnesota. We haven't released any news about where we sit in Nebraska right now, but there's a level of dominating the market in a way that's good for people rather than bad for people. Dominating as in, if you're dominating it with good solar systems that aren't these ugly systems where you see pipes going over the corner of your roof and nasty stuff, it's like bringing some awesome thing to the world.
Mm-hmm.
For us, our product, that experience is Everlight, and so that really fuels us. We and so it's because we're all adventurous. You need to be adventurous to do that. And at our stage of growth, if you're not adventurous, you're not going to be on as we scale to more estate, because it's not going to stay the same. And so we know that. We know people their jobs are going to say, and we're open about that in hiring. So this is a key virtue. And so there are people that are not adventurous that might as well work for the IRS, and they're awesome. They're super awesome. They would not be happy with us.
Mhm.
And being able to say no to people who we know aren't going to have a good time is huge for us. Disagreeing commit's huge because there's a lot of, and you can't learn without a lot of disagreement, and you can't move forward without committing. So that's a huge value.
Mhm.
As well, one of our values is insanely simple. We work hard to create simple experiences for people. We believe that simple is really hard to get to, that complex is easy. And so transforming customer experiences and staff experiences into something elegant is absolutely one of our values. And our last value is one team, because if you don't feel like you're all one team and you're all together, you're just not going to fly. And I can tell you that it's extremely rare for somebody. Of course, you can't make every horse drink the water, but if you read our reviews, you'll see a bunch of people saying they actually live their values. This is crazy. It's not that our values are better than other values or anything like that. Committing to something and being who you are is huge for people, so they know what they're getting out of it. And if we fail, it's because we stopped being that.
And one of the things that really kind of struck me when I heard that, Tony, is a lot of the values to me sound like the major themes that you live your life by, from the creative music marketing media days. So I can kind of really feel and that a big chunk of your DNA is part of the company, as you're one of the leaders helping to build it, which is awesome. You joined the company where you said the company was around 30, now it's around 300. That's a significant growth, especially in a time where
That's my job.
we're all going through, but it's a difficult time too, right? Economic uncertainties, a lot of people are fearful where the just microclimate that we're in, micro and macro. And so what are some of your favorite channels to recruit? What are your secrets to success when it comes to just
Yeah.
recruiting and scaling a company from 30 to 300?
Yeah. Well, I think, a pinprick on our success that speaks to what you were just saying, that definitely translates to the recruitment, is that we, the, every C-level person in the company has knocked doors before. We all went and had different careers and were successful in different places, the three of us. And we all had that experience. And for that year I knocked doors, when that was? That was during the recession. That was when people said, you guys aren't going to do as well as other years. I knocked doors that recession and made more money than I did my year-round job. And I was like, wow. And that taught me this important thing about strategy. And that's like, sometimes if you think strategy is in finding the right houses and, knowing who your customers are is huge in marketing, but sometimes we can over-index on that. And we're walking from house to house and we're investigating it. Is this a good house? Is this a good sale? And what knocking doors taught me is it's less about that and more about making me somebody who, when I knock doors, when I hit a house, I can sell it. I made it about me. And I think as a customer, you should have, you can't be everything to everybody, but in molding, if you worry about building the company to be something that when they get those opportunities, they actually demolish them, that changes how you do stuff. And I think, so rather than even the perfect channel, it's being somebody who takes advantage of any channel you get. So in COVID, we grew tremendously because we switched channels. We reformed our sales team. We didn't lose a single person. I think we grew 10 people the first month of COVID of shutdown. We'd grown by 30 people in 2 months. And we decided as an exec team, we're not going to lose anybody because we're a company that has no debts. We're, even with this huge company, with all the expensive stuff we do, we didn't take on any funding. We wanted to be, there's different kinds of businesses and there's time for funding. We designed Everlight as a customer funded business. And because we did that, and because we were extremely wise with money, we were profitable within our first year, and we had money to be able to not lose anybody and retrain people, and the bandwidth to retrain people and change the way we sold, because you can't knock on doors. You can't. There's certain a number of our sales channels got cut off, and because we had a lot of marketing expertise, we tapped into channels we didn't normally use, and we learned in the company. And there's stuff we had in our back pocket that we used. So solar doesn't recruit online very much. I mean, there's a lot of it. I mean, to a degree, everything has become online through COVID, but we were ahead of the game because we know we were remote before remote was the thing because of COVID. We were already remote as much as we could. And we have to be in person for a lot of the stuff we do. I would say, I don't know what percentage, but a huge percentage of our company was remote already, from Alaska to Florida, to New York, LA, and we had already designed a system that people could work remotely because being our backgrounds were heavy entrepreneurs. I mean, we wanted people that we could trust would trust themselves, and we know that you don't need somebody. we didn't want to be the place where there's a dude being like, all right, get back to work, you know, like the Flintstones or Simpsons version of work. We wanted people that really want to get we're going to be huge. And so if you get in with us now, you're going to be part of that when we're way bigger. You're going to be on the, even the first 200 is the first 200 of many that it's going to take as we accomplish our mission and scale across America. And so it's exciting, and it means there's a lot of room for growth and opportunities. So when we went after recruitment, going online where we could see our metrics, we could see clearly what works, what doesn't, and developing a structured hiring process that's reliable across roles where everybody had the same experience was good for diversity, because we know that the more kinds of people we can get together, that's the more ideas, the better disagreeing we can have. And that means the things we commit to is a lot better and richer. And so we have a diversity of geography and of people that is unparalleled in our industry. Not that I know every other competitor, because we barely look at them. We just run into them and go, wow, I forgot you guys existed. And that's not, that for us, if we were doing terribly, it would be dumb not to be asking questions about other people. That's part of learning. And of course, learning about the market is a big part of starting up. But committing to a path and learning that and worrying about you instead of, because sometimes we can look at competition and stuff and look at the way other people hire in a way where we're trying to push blame off for how we're doing. This company is doing really well. Oh, that's going to hurt us. We never think that. That's not going to touch us, because it's us and the value we create for people. And we've raised everybody's numbers in the states we're in. Like when we were just in Idaho, we raised Idaho's numbers dramatically. And in Wisconsin, we've changed the game on their numbers year to year. And all the companies that are mad at us for coming in have doubled their numbers over the years, because a good company like the iPhone raised the tide for smartphones across the board. Sales of smartphones went up dramatically, regardless of what phone you had. It helps everybody, and so that confidence that we're helping the market, that even if we're relentless and we're going to find the way, and we can do that confidently because we know it actually doesn't harm other companies. We create opportunities for other solar companies behind us.
So most of the people that you found for your team, from my understanding, you said it's not too much online. It's more referrals, word of mouth type of thing. Is that?
Yeah. We do. You mean for lead generation?
For recruiting specifically to grow your team. Yeah.
Well, we do more online advertising for recruiting
than job boards
than we do for other stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha.
We don't want, and we do it without sharing the stuff we don't want to share about our recruiting process. We're not looking at our own industry. Again, looking at what we've learned about business and life. The best thing you can do if you want to be an entrepreneur next year is just to absolutely excel at whatever your hands are in front of, like whatever's in front of your hands, whatever's in front of you. You don't get ahead by ignoring this because you want to do that.
Right.
Any good staff member you've ever hired, you knew that they would be awesome if they were working at a coffee shop or something. They'd be that awesome person. Because when you decide to have ownership and own whatever role you're given and excel at it, it doesn't matter what you hand that person, they're going to keep excelling and keep learning. We look for that kind of person who, rather than expertise, because expertise just means you know some stuff. And of course, you need, like electricians need to have like a license.
Like technical skills and things like that, right? But yeah, no, I totally get it, Tony. Like, it seems like you use a variety of different methods. It's not so much what industry you come from. It's all about, hey, which of the core values can they exude, right?
Exactly,
and
who you are,
how coachable you are, and your work ethic and all that. I totally get that. I think what's really also interesting is it's honestly like music to my ears as someone who's a recruiting professional who has worked with a lot of different founders and companies in a lot of different industries. And it's music to my ears to talk to an executive like yourself at a company in an industry, which I don't really know too much about. Funny enough, like one of my old friends way back, completely off tangent, also started his own solar company in Canada. That's to the extent I know of. So I don't know solar at all. But I think what my point is, it's really, really cool to see a company like yours in the economic climate that we're in, that is doing really well, that is positioned really well, that has managed capital extremely well, and not over leverage themselves, which obviously what we're seeing in tech today is a result of that, and who not only has core values and ethos, but like really just kind of does whatever they can to just walk the walk too. It's very easy, as you would agree, as a marketing professional previously, it's very easy just to use these trendy buzzwords and keywords and not back it up. And so I think it's really cool to see a company like you really making an effort to back it up, not just for following through, making sure every customer is happy, but also the people that you're bringing on board, they're fulfilled and they're not in danger, or they don't have to be stressed. Am I going to have my job? Because of how well the company's doing, how well you're positioned financially, like they're, as long as they perform well, the company does well, like they have a stable, lucrative, fulfilling job in the future. And so that's what everyone wants, right? When it comes to new jobs and joining a new company. So I think that's really cool. Now, my next question is, you have a team of about 300. You said a lot of that's remote. Is your corporate team remote as well? Or is your corporate team hybrid or in the office?
Mixed. Yeah.
It's mixed.
Because our model is heavily remote and out of our different warehouses, offices, we work. Sometimes location matters. We just travel a ton. Like there's nobody at a senior level or the VP level, or even director level that doesn't travel a lot. And really because we're growing and we plan to be in more places, I first came on, I was in Utah and Idaho and Wisconsin like crazy, and I'm in Nebraska and Minnesota a lot too. I'm somewhere, usually once a month, I'm somewhere. Remote work allows that to happen even better. It allows our people to not feel, there's a camaraderie in the usness of it when you have a big remote workforce. Individual teams matter, but also contributing to the larger whole that is more or less us as a wide us. Remote work actually helps with that. Helps us get better people that are in situations like where they need to be home, and where we get people because maybe it's because of a new baby, maybe it's there's a lot of factors there where we get awesome people that we otherwise couldn't be able to, especially as a startup, couldn't have won because of their situation and how awesome remote work is just as a way of doing it if you're the kind of person that can excel at it. But as an exec team, we work remote, and in a way we're always working remote because we have several states and offices to take care of. So when a market becomes important, we usually have one of our leaders are gonna need to live there for a bit sometimes. And we spend a lot of time there, and when you're doing that, you're remote for the other offices. So that's one of the reasons, knowing that we wanted to be multi-office and to manage that well for the beginning, we needed to engineer something that was designed to have that remote possibility. And the fact that we were doing so well at that before COVID is only amplified by all the services and all the stuff that's helped us since, because of how big that's gotten.
That's really great to hear. I think in one extent, like the business model of owning or operating a solar company demands a large part of the team to be remote. But at the same time, you still go a step further. It's easy to kind of make your sales guys fully remote and the corporate team fully in office, right? But it seems like you're just doing structuring in a way where it's whatever's the best business, and just not being super stubborn one way or another, and really being kind of dynamic and offering that hybrid flexibility that offers you guys to run just like an optimal, more efficient business. So I think that's really cool. I think solar, even similar to recruiting, historically is very like sales structured, still sales oriented. And I think one of the models that are still kind of struggling overall to find a situation to fully flourish in a fully remote is like any sales organizational sales related business. So it's really cool to see that you guys are still, even on the HQ team, are just not sticking with just, I want everyone in the office because that's the only way it is. You're a lot of your team, a lot of people around the country are fully remote, but you're also kind of following suit with the corporate team as well, which is really cool. Now, a couple questions before we get. So if people join your company as maybe one of your entry level kind of sales positions, right? Like they're door knocking, is it, and maybe perhaps you can't share, but I want to ask anyway, is it a salary position? Is it a commission position? Is it a salary and commission, in case people are curious?
Yeah, we run commissions because we know that people can make a lot more money. We don't put limits on commissions people make. I don't know why any company would ever do that. I remember his name, the CEO of SAP, what's his name? I remember him talking one time, talking about how he would hit his limit and chill. Like Ross Perot famously had the same thing where he hit his sales quota or limit. And like, why would he do that? the company makes money every time you make money. And if you have those numbers wrong, change the numbers. Like just you either incentivize people to do their best or not. We have the highest paid, people in our industry because we pay more, and because we're running a sales school 24/7. It's night and day from other places. So I can share if you came and did sales with us, I would say the majority of our people beat the market by a lot, and most of them never had sales experience before us. And it's because we look for the right type of person who would be excel at that, look at the values, and we run a school 24, like a constant school on how to sell and how to do it, which is another part of scaling and being able to scale well, is to build your own. And we do that. We do school really for a lot of the way we manage the company is learning and building schools and how we do this.
I can see why, Tony, why they brought you on, because like to manage a successful sales organization not only requires really good training, but then to infuse in every kind of member of your workforce to have a continual hunger to always find ways to be better and get better, right? The continual learning, that thirst for learning. Again, another key element that I've learned just from talking with you, what you've done everything up until now before Everlight Solar. And so just another classic example of you, just what another way you're significantly impacting the company, which is really cool. Now, before I forget, on the customer's end, how much would it be on average to get like a solar panel from you guys, like an average house? Like what, I know you said that your model is like mortgage loans, but like if people are interested and they have maybe like no relative like other numbers, like what would that look like?
Our system size changes all the time. So you're usually never talking below 20 grand, but it's usually not like 100 G's or anything like that. It's anywhere between 20, 50. It depends on what you have. Nobody realizes how much energy they use. One of the things like technology is a big part of what we do. We have a huge technology team, and we build a lot of this. We use a lot of best in class stuff. We also build a lot of our own technology, and we have our own iOS app and an app on Android and a web app for customers. And one of the first things they get to do in it, besides we have a new update coming. So depending on when this is released, our customers will track their project inside their app as well, but they get energy usage data without an extra charge. We don't know how much energy I use. I never look at my power bill before I had our app to do it. And you can look at how much you use and you realize that really goes up year to year. And a lot of times you're hostage. So you might say, well, we actually have a really good deal. And then the next year it could go up 5%. Traditionally, there's a hard percentage of like, if you look at national data, it just goes up. It's kind of like taxes. It's going to go up. It might go down in bits, but over the long term, you're going to be paying a lot. Our system sizes also go up because you know what moves up like crazy? Our usage of energy is just skyrocketing. A hot tub can make the difference between a bunch of panels on your house and none. Some people, battery technology is good. We don't really try to push batteries on people because we don't want, again, we make money because we talk to people about what would be great for their household and stuff, and getting a design that shows, when we show up in your free design, we take your energy bill and we show what your actual bill would be and what your actual energy production can be modestly. So we're always under promising and over delivering on that. And yet, even under promise, we only sell systems when we're going to do well for the person. You can see the numbers, you can see a picture of your house, and you can see the heat distribution of the sun on your house throughout the year. This is expensive stuff to do. But when we do it, we can be very reliable in how we promise customers, and the systems we design can be optimized. And so whether it's 20 or 30,000, it's going to be what you're going to spend anyway in the next so many years on electricity.
Gotcha.
So the people that need the 60 grand system are people that they might have a farm, be like micro farmers, so they'll have a barn in the back, or they're running, they have some chicken coops, or they have a pool, and it's really in the customer's hands where they choose on whether they just 100% knock out their stuff, or if it's 80%, or what percentage of offset they have between what they need to pay for and what they need to get.
Gotcha.
Solar is up and down. So you're like farming. So obviously you produce a lot more in the summer and sell it back to the company. And then you might pay some bills in the winter, but usually they're just paying you back for all the energy you sold them. But understanding that it really scales to your energy use in your home, and there's not like a standard size, just like there's not a standard use.
So it really comes down to the customer and what their needs are. But it seems like whatever scenario you can show them objectively the numbers, and it would just make sense for them. It's really cool also that you guys are tech enabled, that you have your own web app. Do people have to pay? Do your customers have to pay for the app? Okay.
No, we don't try to nickel a dime them and try to make more off them.
No, that's refreshing to hear. So what's the future? What can we expect from you guys in the next 3 to 5 years? Is it just expanding to different markets?
Yeah, it's expanding different markets and making and keeping. We don't go backwards. So our technology enables us. So all the technology we built first was for ourselves, for our staff. We build a lot of apps and stuff to allow us to run our own business our way and faster than other people. And because of that, it's allowed us to get ready and launch stuff for customers. That's the only app on the market that does it. The closest app would be Tesla's app, one of our partners, and their app only works. It does usage and production, and it only does that through the Powerwall, so it doesn't get total usage or total production, but you do get some of that data. But our app gives you all your production and your usage. And again, it's only for our customers. Would we launch one day stuff for more customers? Well, we don't talk about what we're going to do in the future besides the fact that we want to do this in more places for more people. And we want to do more and cooler stuff because we're kind of obsessed with this,
Cool.
which is again the only way how you build a company like this is being absolutely just relentless about it and wanting to do. We love being the best. We want to be the best even more. We just want to look. We want to make last year and this year. This year we've done some huge things, and we want to make it look like dog crap compared to what we do next year. That's my goal. So I'm excited for the team to grow.
With all the chatter in 2023 about recession getting worse, that does not sound like you guys are concerned one bit.
Nope. Just like our biggest sales month was that July. Our biggest sales month. After that point, we've blown that out of the water by now. But when COVID hit and everything shut down, and we don't know of another solar company that didn't lay people off, except for some small electrical firms that aren't real solar companies. They just do solar from time to time. Being like that, by that July, we had learned how to change our sales process enough to match COVID to make that our biggest month ever. Just amazing. 3 months into COVID. And we've only been going upwards since then, not down. And so, of course, does that affect us? Yes, because we're determined to learn through it. And because some of us, like I said, the last recession, we did extremely well. And when people said you couldn't sell in that market, people said you can't sell in this month. And we're like, oh, yeah, we can. You can't install it. Yeah, we can. Is it harder? Does it suck? Does it take blood? Hey, is it hard for me to live where I live and fly around to these different places? Absolutely. It's mind-numbingly hard, but that's the price you pay for it. You don't get in the ring without getting punched. And but if you worry about growing, instead of pointing others in the market for how well you do, you point it at yourself and say, how do I become recession-proof?
Well, if July of 2020 can be a precursor, what to expect in 2023. It seems like you guys are poised for a mammoth of a year. So, but Tony, this has been great. Now, I just have 2 more questions as we're coming to the end here. The first is about marketing. So for someone who's worked a lot of your career in marketing before you start becoming entrepreneurial, you start more companies, what is one advice that you would give for someone who wants to kind of become a professional marketer today? Is there any specific maybe digital channel they should focus on to be a better candidate as times are and landscapes are evolving, or just what would be your advice?
That's, I think, a good question for people, Preston. I think knowing digital stuff is huge. So non-digital marketing both shouldn't be your focus. This is more for current businesses that are already set up that way. And yet knowing non-digital marketing will really help you because everybody's chasing the digital. So I would say be model driven, know the models behind stuff. Why does this work? How does value creation happen? Using a model is really something that makes the complexity behind a lot of stuff mean something. So marketing models can be wildly helpful. Models of what customers care about become model, whether it's as simple as a graph. It's not just sometimes making a single graph go up doesn't matter unless you know how that fits into the business model of the company. Learning that's on the side if you want to scale what you can do. But number one thing is to do well at what's in front of you. So if you can get a job in marketing and all you're learning is Google AdWords or something, learn the crap out of it. Don't do badly at AdWords because you want to be some strategist. That's not going to help you ever. Just knock it completely out of the park and and be willing to say, hey, can I do this? Have ownership instead of waiting for the people above you to say, hey, we need somebody to do this. Anybody want to learn this? I'd be learning Salesforce. Do a Salesforce certificate while you're doing AdWords. Do a certificate in this yourself. If you're not always learning, like I've been probably on, even though I have several degrees and do traditional education, I also have a lot of little certificates and stuff. I go and I have a big tech team and Salesforce team, and I try to beat them on having trailhead points in Salesforce, even though this is their job because it's their job to do better than me. And I want to be like, you better be beating me in trailhead, have more points. So I became a ranger before other people. They have like trailhead rangers. I was like, what am I doing beating you on being a ranger? This is the last thing I need to worry about. I do that to spur the fun of learning and to encourage people. We're not afraid of our people learning though. And some businesses totally are. You want people to be reliably in a spot. Because we're good at recruitment and we know that we have a model and a stack that grows ourselves. We don't have to try to hold people back. If you do that for yourself as a person, though, if you say, hey, it's up to me to become more valuable, and no one's ever going to select me for the next job if I do bad at the first job. You don't say something's not handed to you, and your attitude shouldn't be, oh, this, I could do a lot more than this. You come having knocked that out of the park and say, I got this, and I just got a Salesforce certificate. Can I help here? Who doesn't want that person working for them? Where you're like, yeah, we totally need help. We need work on our Salesforce or whatever technology, whatever, if you're using whatever social, there's a lot of different social media technologies. There's a lot of marketing technologies out there. Learning any of them and finding out what people do is taking ownership for your own journey. For me, you think I didn't read any book anybody mentioned in any meeting I was ever in at any company I was in, even as a consultant. If I was a consultant and somebody mentions this book, oh yeah, it's like that book, blah, blah, blah. The next week I'm back and I read that book. Yeah, I'm not messing around. That's what relentless person does. They take ownership for their own growth. That way, when the opportunity comes, I'm the person that just did a Linda course on that. Yeah. But there's a degree to doing that. There's some people that they get into it and they're telling me about their Linda courses while they're not delivering at the little role they're in now.
I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that answer. My second question for you is for someone that has started multiple businesses in his life. What is just a one advice you'd give to someone in terms of the best way to respond or act with failure?
Okay, so failure sucks. I talk a lot about how failure is necessary and required.
Wait, sorry, can I interrupt? First of all, I just loved how you just said that, honestly, because like it's very easy to like see all these books and speeches, be like, you need to embrace failure is good. But like, let's be honest, it also sucks. It's painful. It's not the best experience, but I think where they're coming from is what happens afterwards. So I just appreciate the honesty here. You're just being raw and be like, failure is not like, the happiest and most positive experience. It is what it is, right? But please continue. So I just had to kind of give you credit for that.
So Carol Dweck's landmark book, Mindset, which is like any leader should read, about how growth mindset and fixed mindsets are different. Fixed mindset is they're looking to prove themselves. Growth mindset, you're looking to grow and get better, and you have a belief that you can learn anything. You need a growth mindset, and we don't. We have mindsets all over the place in our lives. You need a growth mindset about work. You need to see failure as part of the process, even though it sucks. Sometimes failure is valuable because of the learning. First time I became a VP, it was on a sinking ship. I knew that going in. In fact, I was a consultant that told them, "You're a plane. Here's a mountain. You're flying the plane into the mountain. Even if you changed all these huge things, you might not be able to pull out." And I took the job anyway. And I took the job because an even smarter marketer than me told me, "Yeah, you're never going to be able to save them. You're right. You just showed me." I watched somebody who he was both top marketing and he did both top marketing for graduate students, the MBAs, and ran a marketing firm that was really good. And I talked to him as just we both ran firms and stuff. So I showed him the numbers. This client wants me to come in here, and I liked running my business than basically pausing it and going in somewhere, because they're different things. And especially when I got too much into consulting, because when my business became consulting, you can have impact, but there's a level of ownership when you're a co-owner and you're a VP for a long time or a COO, something you can build that you never get to build quite as a consultant, even though you can have impact. And so for me, I was looking for those opportunities. And I remember him being like, there's nothing you can do, but there's probably no better place to learn stuff. And so I literally went on to, when I was pitching them on what I couldn't do for them, but what they needed to do was like, you're a plane crashing the side of a mountain, as I did the COO. And it's a sinking ship. I just spent a year there, and that changed my life. It changed my consulting radically. I learned so much. I did amazing things there. I doubled whatever, or 10x a lot of stuff. We like on 40% of the budget. We had so many more impressions, so many more things, and all these metrics. And I did a lot of stuff there like that. Felt great. But seeing people fail, seeing brilliant people smarter than me not be able to get emotionally together to handle the problems of the business, and confirming what a lot of stuff I believed about business, about leadership, about how your emotional bandwidth is going to hold you back before your smarts do. How about your willingness to work hard and your willingness to put yourself on the line emotionally and go for it? Those are the things that stop us back. If you haven't started a business, it's not because there's in fact, so many businesses are started when people are just have nothing to lose. And that's why they started them, because they already had nothing to lose. So waiting for certain resources doesn't make a lot of sense. There's headwinds of time and change of some person that we want it to be perfect for them to slide in there. Those things have never been the reason why something succeeded. It's because people were willing to be poor for 4 years so that they could have this restaurant that is doing well the rest of their lives. But you're starting a restaurant and you're not in you don't already have a ton of money that you're throwing into the restaurant, you're going to be living poor. But you'll be running your own business and creating the best coffee shop in town or the best whatever in town, and it's going to be hard. Scaling that business is a whole other thing. And respecting that those are different things, and being willing to use your laurels but not rely on them to get to the next stage, and keeping yourself as a rookie. I'm a rookie. I mean, I've had success. I'm a rookie right now. I feel I'm a rookie. I'm not a billionaire. Even when I'm a billionaire, I'll be like, I'm a rookie billionaire. I don't know anything the other billionaires have, right? Keeping that rookie mindset gives you their humility is not just saying I'm humble. It's being the kind of humble Michael Jordan was when even though he was number one, we see his bravado, we see that energy and that confidence he brought, but it wasn't a confidence that was bravado. It was confidence because he spent almost all his time yesterday practicing when other players didn't.
Complacency can kill you. And I think that was a really, really insightful answer again. And it just kind of goes back to just the core themes about your life and your career, and just all tying together, weaving into like a really professional and very, very impressive track record of not just you as a professional, but as you as a leader, and your mindset, and giving us a little glimpse of all of that, Tony. I really appreciate that. So just the best way to kind of bring it all together, and we touched upon this with previous answers, but just to kind of full circle it, for someone who's listening who hopes to one day follow in your footsteps, perhaps they start just like you, they're passionate creative, whether it's in art or music, and they want to have a very successful career one day, whether it's within a linear track like marketing, or perhaps indeed starting different businesses, or becoming a C-suite executive one day at a fast-growing company. What is your biggest advice?
I'd say be a different kind of executive. Be willing to be that person who did charity work in Chicago for a summer or a year, did knock doors for a summer. Be that different kind of executive, because then when you get there, you think like the people that I compete against, they might know a lot about solar, but they don't know anything about a lot of other things that with my experience, I'm able to go into places and go into situations where I know nothing about the specifics and bring a lot of value, because I've learned how to ask questions in situations where I don't know anything, and how to grow companies where I don't know the technology. I've worked with a bunch of different technologies that do stuff I still don't know much about, but I was able to help grow them because of learning the power of questions, and the power of growing myself into somebody totally different, because our differences are what help create that value. Just like in a relationship, you want somebody in a long-term partnership with you who is not you as a copy, but they of course you need to agree on the same lifestyle, but it's these deep polarities, these differences that draw us to each other as friends and as partners. And I think as businesses, if we can learn to share values and things, but be wildly different elsewhere, we get this cool thing. And so make yourself valuable. Go off the tracks a little bit. If you want to be an MBA might not be the first place you turn after your degree. Instead, do some weird work, get something else, try to start a business. And when you fail and you just get another job, be glad you can get another job, because in entrepreneurship, you learn how to sell stuff and then wait for the next time. And if you can let yourself off the hook and be as kind to yourself as you are to your friends, then you can move past that failure. And I mean, I even though my businesses did well, they didn't do as well as I wanted them to do. They feel like failures because I want to be sky high. You know, I have that stuff. So I had to forgive myself, and I needed to learn from it. If you don't learn from it, it's truly a waste.
Life is all just one big learning experience, right, Tony? And you just got to be you, be different, take risks, and embrace it. If people wanted to apply to Everlight Solar, if people wanted to maybe be a future customer of you guys, where can they find you?
Just everlightsolar.com.
If people want to reach out to you for advice, for tips, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me at, I think I have a couple websites that all lead the same place, thecreech.net. You can, if you just, if you can search me on LinkedIn. I don't hide myself. People can find me. You're free to friend me and message me. I'll friend you, and if you message me, I might reach out someday. I get several messages every day. And if you're not selling me something, I might respond. I love that people do that. I think it's helpful to me to hear about businesses and stuff. I love it. I just don't have the time to be as courteous with everybody as I want to be. So please you can search me on social media. I Anthony Creech or Tony Creech is in there. Creech is a very common last name, so it stands out. But thecreech.net is an easy place to go. I'm on Twitter and stuff. I try to. I try not to be on socials too much, because there's a lot of social apps I don't have on my phone because I couldn't do what I do today if that's where my head was at.
Gotta be focused.
but LinkedIn's a for sure answer, or just reach out, tweet at me.
Yeah, absolutely. So please reach out to Tony for any advice.
Also, I have a podcast I do with somebody much smarter than me, Dr. Scott, called Leader FM. That we haven't done an episode in a little while because of just the level at which my concentration is needed to be at work, but we have some stuff coming out soon. That's another place to just try to find me and message me. I mean, Preston, I want to say thank you to you. I feel robbed because I just feel like there's so much insight from yourself that I'm not getting enough of, because I have to answer the questions and blabber. And so usually I like to try to learn something more from somebody else than me being the one sharing. So thanks for your help in summarizing in my long diatribes. I just want to say I want to hear more.
There's only so much we can go through with our limited time, Tony, but I definitely do want to appreciate your rawness, your realness, and your transparency, and just sharing and giving the audience a glimpse of your journey so far, which has been really inspirational and filled with really exciting, insightful nuggets. Everything from how you were successfully able to pivot from being a passionate creative into attractive marketing, to then pivoting to founders of multiple businesses, but also just being humble and asking questions, embracing yourself, not being afraid to try new things, knowing that life, as we talked about, is just filled with different chapters, making you just a multifaceted professional rock star that you are today, with your latest, obviously, chapter being scaling this ridiculously fast-growing, successful, it sounds like it's extremely well-managed solar company to the moon and beyond. And I'm really thankful for your time, and thankful even more so because you couldn't even make time for your own podcast. So I'm really thankful for you making a couple minutes for ours. But again, just huge kudos to you and the team for everything you're able to accomplish. And it was really also cool for me to see like everything that you believed in, but how you're also able to just exude that spirit and philosophy in the company Everlight Solar you are right now. So I will definitely be keeping in touch with you, Tony, your story. I will be rooting for you guys. And I know for a fact, if I one day get my house of my own and I need solar panels, I know exactly who to reach out to. And if I know anyone else in my network who wants to step up their energy savings game, I'll definitely point them your way. But really, really appreciate it. Super thankful.
Thanks, Preston.
And again, looking forward to seeing what you guys will do.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'm just here for the chance to hopefully learn something. So, and again, just trying to pass it on. I deeply believe you're not a good speaker or a good manager because you have a title or because you're on the stage. You got to be the person on the bus sharing with the person next to you. Those are the people that really have something worth sharing. So I try to do my part and open my mouth if it's helpful.
It definitely is. You got it.
Thank you.
Enjoy.